Okay, some of you have been asking where I was, what I've been doing. I've been taking some time off working on, well, I'm still working on the same things I've been working on in the background as always, but I wanted to touch base on some of my thoughts about the potential global economic recession that's starting to take place, something that we had anticipated since 2008. Again, they never solved the problems in 2008. In fact, all they did was exacerbate the dilemma by printing more money, which I guess superficially inflated the markets all around the world. That's kind of what money printing and quantitative easing is just money printing. They came up with some technical terms like, yeah, we're doing quantitative easing. You mean you're printing more money and shoving it into the markets, artificially propping up businesses that shouldn't in any way, shape, or form be successful, making them look then successful. Anyways, a very difficult idea here, but what I wanted to get into was some of the, I guess, the ideas and conversations I've been having in the background about whether or not a recession would be a good thing for Bitcoin or not. Now, it's kind of one of those very difficult to think about processes. First off, a global economic recession like the one we saw in 2008, where we never were allowed to hit the bottom, could be disastrous for many people around the world. This means that people are likely going to be getting laid off from their jobs. They're going to be moving any assets out into safe havens like fiat. And that's generally where the odd question came from, is that, okay, well, most of the people on the planet don't know anything about Bitcoin yet or blockchain. So they're likely going to be moving into the world of fiat. Now, I don't think that that's a good idea. Fiat, garbage. Obviously, we know that. But the majority of the population still doesn't trust or understand what Bitcoin and blockchain does. Now, it's the solution. It's the medicine to the problems in the fiat. But people also haven't noticed that there are even problems in the fiat world yet. They've given sway to the government propaganda that the Federal Reserve is in control. Just tuck your nighty nights in, you're going to be fine because we're going to raise interest rates. Now, this has been part of their story for a long time. So if you dive into some of the market sentiments here, you see that the market is on pace for its worst December since the Great Depression. Now, if you jump into the S&P 500 as well, this becomes even more noticeable, I think, when you're looking at, here's the 15-minute chart, as you can see, but let's go to the 1-month chart. It starts to become a little bit more apparent, right? Yes, this ridiculous chart here. Look at that red candlestick heading right down towards your exponential moving average. Do I have a 200-day on here? No, I don't have a 200-day on here yet. I will add that right now. Moving average. There we go. It's on the 9-day close right now. We'll change the settings of that to 200 and go like this. There we go. So we've got a long ways down to go to the 200-day moving average, which you would find very closely related to at least the two previous tops of 2001 and 2008. Now, the first exponential moving average we have here is around 231. If we break this, which I do suspect we will, so right now I'm looking at the S&P 500. This is Standard & Poor's 500 top companies. It's a mix of commodities, bonds, stocks as well. You also had the FTSE 100, which is the 100 top companies in the Great Britain area, I believe. Someone double check me if I'm wrong there, but I believe it's Great Britain. So going back from 2016 with no previous data before that. I'm not sure why that is. Perhaps I'm looking at the wrong FTSE. We'll double check on that. And then you have the VIX. This is the volatility indicator, and it's had a massive spike up here in the beginning of the year. So in 2008, look at the gains that were made from the low $13 level to the $100, almost $100 mark on some of the wicks. Again, that volatility is starting to spike up to the previous highs of the volatility index that we had before. This is again related against the S&P 500. So the question becomes, is this good for Bitcoin? Well, there's a bunch of ways to try to look at an answer for this. Now, I don't think that it is. Because value is a privilege of those who are able to not just survive but thrive. If the average person starts to have difficulties surviving, are they going to be super excited about buying new assets? No, unlikely not. Are even institutional monies going to be interested about buying into new assets? No, but they do see that Bitcoin is likely near its lows, of which it could be. Again, we have a lot of evidence to say that it could go to the $1,000 range. Even the other day on the Ice and Backed podcast, if you listen to it, he specifically says that they don't believe institutional money to some degree is going to be looking at Bitcoin until it gets down near the $1,000 range. So now you have the people that have been in the New York Stock Exchange for a very long time saying, yeah, $1,000. So this is not a new sentiment here. I would actually, you can find that. If you haven't yet joined the Arcane Bear Telegram channel, it is posted in the links there below. And also, backed, as far as I know, delayed. Let's see this. It should come up as one of the first news articles. Yes, launch of Backed Bitcoin futures market may get postponed again. Is Backed delaying the future of its Bitcoin futures platform again? Launch of Backed Future Bitcoins exchange to be delayed yet again. So when you look into this sentiment here, these guys are having a difficult time getting the rules and regulations through with the SEC and the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. I believe that's what it is. So if you dive in here, it looks as okay, it was delayed by the company set originally from December to the 24th of January. Now, however, the launch is likely being delayed again as the Intercontinental Exchange has not still yet received the approval from the U.S. Commodity and Futures Trading or the CFTC. So this may be a delay in the approval, which will ultimately lead to the delay in the launch of Backed. Now, everyone gets head over heels excited about this institutional money, thinking, yeah, this is going to make us start a new bull market. But when you're entering a global recession, again, you have the Nikkei. I don't even know how to say some of these stupid things. Is it the Nikkei futures? No, just the Nikkei 225, I believe. And it may have already been in a drop for quite some time, so I'm not entirely sure here. Yeah, the Nikkei's been in a corollary drop for many years. It couldn't even reach its original highs of the early 1990s. So not a great example, but even this red candlestick here should be a large worry to most institutional investors, because that's around a 10 to 12% drop in their large-scale portfolios. You can find the DAX as well. I believe it's the DAX, the German index, going to be breaking. Where is it? Here we go. So as we start to enter a global recession, here you have the DAX again too, this very large red candle wick that looks very similar to the other economic crashes of 2001 and 2008. This is not a good sign for the world at large. Therefore, well, what does it do to Bitcoin? Everyone's like, well, even a little bit of extra money running over to Bitcoin. It's like, Bitcoin is just is even more of a volatile asset than what most people are used to, which is great for us who are crazy and love that volatility and who are invested in the future medicine, but people are likely going to be running to fiat. I don't suspect that this is good news for anybody. Joseph Lubin came out and said, hey, we're at the bottom, the future looks bright. It's like, no, you're being an arrogant human being. The future does not look bright for most of the people on the planet right now, because this is going to affect a lot of people. Just like in 2008, people were losing their homes, they were losing their jobs. That's not something to be excited about, and during those times, people go into survival mode. So that's my sentiments. I just wanted to share a little bit about that, just to make a little video. We'll do some TA I think later this evening when we come back online. But basically what I wanted to do here was just go over this. I'll take a few guys' thoughts. Heaven says BTC will not go to $1,000. I see, anytime you say something like that, it will not happen. It's just more likely that it will happen. I remember a few months ago, people on the channel were like, oh, Bitcoin will never go below $6,000, when we said 36 to 4,200 was the downside, and the upside was a switch above the $7,500 range, which we never saw again. All we saw was the downside. They said, they were bringing up all these ideas like it costs too much to mine it, and it'll never happen. Institutional money's coming in. Yeah, well, guess what? It doesn't make a difference. The world is entering an economic recession, and that is not good for any asset class. Even gold went down the last week. Why is that? People are running into fiat. They're running into the traditionally known stablecoin. So I do believe $1,000 has a lot of room for credibility, and there's a lot of room for that being extremely possible. Although I myself, as a risk-adjusted manager of my own assets, I look for easy entry points. Anywhere between you take gaps. Let's say you have $10,000. This is not financial investment advice in any way, shape, or form, but let's say you have $10,000 you want to invest in Bitcoin. You think that there's a possibility that goes between $1,000 and $3,800. Those are all good entry points. So what you do is you go, maybe I'm going to buy around $2,000 here, $2,000 here, and save two and two here for those other entry points. And you wait, and if they don't hit, we're going to find a bottom, and we're going to sit there for a while. Because if we are correct and we're entering a global economic recession, then you do not want to have your hands in almost any asset. Anyways, there's probably only a few of us who remember the 2008 crash. And we're invested in that space. It is not something to be easily, it's not easy to throw it aside to think that the negative sentiments will bleed over into our markets. So I could see this lining up. Again, I'm not invested in being right or wrong here. We're just looking at possibilities. So I'm never going to be the person to say things will never happen. Bitcoin could go to $0 if a meteorite hits the planet and destroys everything. So why would I ever say that that's not a possibility? Anything's possible in the world of infinite possibilities and this universe that we live in. I do not say things are impossible. So I would very, very highly recommend that you do the same thing. That's not financial advice. That's just a good thing to think in life in general, because nothing is impossible if you set your mind to it. So hey, who knows, maybe if we set our minds to it, Bitcoin could go to $1 million, but probably not today. I do have a very, 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 very bullish outlook on Bitcoin over the next 10 years. It's one of the reasons why I bought at $90, is because I think this is not done. This story is not over. And until the fiat currencies start to collapse, Bitcoin will likely not find its true value as a replacement for the failing debt infrastructure that we have today. Now, I do agree with Tyler Jenks. There are very few options that we can choose here that are for the benefit of everyone. So let's, ladies and gentlemen, please choose wisely. We are getting to a 0 hour, and it's important that we all focus and learn to build as a community together. Anyways, this is Teal with the Arcane Bear. I will be back online later this evening. I do not think that the global stock market crashing is good for Bitcoin, and I do not believe much of that money will run over into this space, because I do not believe that we have found the bottom yet. Although, hey, I could be wrong. Great, that's awesome. It doesn't bother me either. I still own my initial assets, everything, but I'm out of the market in terms of what I use to build my businesses, in terms to live my life for the next year. Aside from original asset investments, it's like, okay, well, if I bought it $90 and we're gonna sell now, no, I just gotta keep it and sit on it. It was always a speculative asset for me. I'm not gonna change that. I would never change that. I love my speculative assets. They've done me very well. Anyways, I'm going to visit a CSR group today. Going to be a lot of fun. Thank you guys for sharing all your time. Give us those thumbs up. Hopefully we will be back on later this evening to go over more of the charts. I also want to apologize, because I'm sure some of you, you're like, we don't only talk about Bitcoin or blockchain here. We've had physicists, PhDs in biology come on the show. I like to do anything creative, anything that stimulates my mind and brings more learning in that process of creativity. So the other day we did a video about going to a hippie music festival, and like we made poetry over top of the video. And this is what you get here at the Arcane Bear. There's no real niche directive, but we do believe that there is that invisible thread that weaves us all together. So for those of you that are the tapestries that have been pulled in by this invisible thread, thank you very much for joining us. It means the world to me. Join the Telegram channel, where the world of people are significantly more valuable than I as my single self. So thank you guys all for joining us, and that continue to join us. We'll see you on the